Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the No Limit Wrestling Show. As always, I am Xavi, and I am joined by Dylan. Dylan, how are you, buddy?
I'm all right. I'm all right. I'm chilling. Right now, I'm not sure when this episode will go out. Probably in the next few days. Obviously, we are both engrossed in Queen of Villains, which just
Yep.
released on Netflix. And that's actually kind of a tie-in to why I decided to pick this show, even though none of the characters in the show are in this on the show. Um,
If we were prepared, we probably should have picked a show with an atrocious alliance
the thing is that like outside of, funnily enough, I brought this up on Stormquest. There's only a few like full shows from
and
the
like,
80s that are like worth going into, and one of them, like the main one, I'm going to write a written review on.
okay,
And I was just like, probably shouldn't, you know, double tap
yeah,
that.
yeah. I was telling Dylan. Dylan's at the first episode. I'm like 3 episodes in. Um, I caved and just paid for the standard edition on Netflix with the ads to just watch it. And it fucking pops me how much they kayfabe this, but also just like some of it, like the, the fucking Matsunaka brothers are just like, all right, we need heels to face the Crush Gals. So Devil, Jaguar, yeah, you're trying to do this. Jaguar's like, fuck you, man. No, I'm not gonna help them shine. And then Devil's just like, okay, we need to like grow the Devil Army. And they were like, oh, what about Monster Ripper? And she was just like, what the fuck? I can't control that. No, I'm not having monster. I was just like, that's fucking peak.
I
Uh,
love that because like the Devil Army is such a funny era because it's very clearly like they didn't have a full thought. They literally
no,
just were like, okay, let's just have a heel, and
yeah,
it was just Devil and like whoever else would hang out
yeah.
because all of them had already retired. All the good heels from the late '70s had
I,
retired, so she's just like,
I I do like people. I don't want to sound like a snob because like I'm not even fully engrossed into like old Zenjo, but like I know enough. Well, they're just like, oh, that's another brothers come off really bad. I was like, yeah, well, historically they are really
oh, they're
bad.
terrible people.
Yeah, historically they're just awful people. So I would like to think they were a lot nicer about them in this series than they probably should have been.
Yeah, I mean, e- like I think one of them, some people were like, well, he wasn't that bad, but even
Yeah,
like,
that's and I think he's the one that
is
throughout
he
the
in? Is he
series
the guy?
where
Yeah,
he shows like a little bit of like morality, where it's like, okay, he's not.
yeah. But even so, it's like when there's five brothers and four of them are complete pieces of shit. Not great. But instead of talking about the relevant subject, we decided to talk about what kind of came out of it, I
Yeah,
guess.
I mean that's a good
Um,
way to phrase it.
like as in like WrestleMarinepiad, the first one. But oh yeah, we should. You can intro the show if you wanted to.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, we are reviewing Gestelin said AJW WrestleMarinepiad from 1994. We wanted to with this episode we wanted to do us two and we wanted to really dive into the 90s. It was very hard to find like a full card that like wasn't clipped, and also it's like, okay, this is worth like watching the whole show over.
It wasn't
We
6 hours.
Yeah, yeah,
A lot of them are.
yeah, yeah. Which I promise y'all, at some point we are definitely doing the Big Egg whenever we have enough time to watch the Big Egg. Um, but it was a challenge, but also mostly because a lot of the stuff we wanted to watch we like couldn't find. Like we couldn't find a strong like JWP show that had like, and I think that was another glaring issue where it's just like there was a match on there that interests us, but like the rest of the card is just like
Pretty
it's like
bland, yeah.
yeah, like I mean this one had its issues, but it's a strong card. Like on paper, if you just look at it, it's a pretty strong card for
Hmm.
1994. But yeah, Dylan just popped this. He was like, you want to do this?" And I was just like, "Yeah, I'm down." So now that we've introduced the show, Dylan, you can continue your train of thought.
Yeah, so I picked this one because I actually saw a picture of Double Noe, and it's like, oh, the 30th anniversary of the five-star match is coming up, and
Mhm.
I started looking into it. I was like, oh yeah, Double Noe, that'd be fun. That'd be a fun match to watch. Double
Yeah.
Inoue versus
Uh, and I
Gold Combo.
and I think unintentionally it's very relevant because Dave Meltzer has become allergic
Yeah,
to giving Joshi's 5 stars nowadays.
yeah,
He
and
loves
I
to
think that
throw him
will
that.
be I think that will be something we talk about when we talk about the main event because
Yeah,
like
it's interesting
yeah,
how
it'll be an
like times has
interesting
changed.
comparison. But basically, WrestleMarinepiad. This was the sixth. It's WrestleMarinepiad VI. The first WrestleMarinepiad was the last show of Chigusa Nagayo. So that's kind of like the train of thought there is that the first big WrestleMarinepiad show was in '89. Not a very good card, frankly. It
Hmm.
was main evented by Medusa and Linus Asuka, which you know depends on how Medusa was feeling that day. But otherwise, the card was a bit weaker outside of like the Chigusa retirement stuff. And they kept doing that every year, following up until I want to say '96, maybe '97. They did. I think they brought it back in like 2000. But the first seven, I would say, WrestleMania Pads are like the ones that are of note that you will hear about. And yeah, that's why I kind of chose this one. Is that it's like 94 is an interesting year. I don't usually go this deep into AJW because like 94, I just like I'll cherry pick shows, but like VTG ended way before 94. A lot of my favorite wrestlers stopped wrestling around this time. Hokuto wasn't really around permanently at this point. Bull was in America, and just like a lot of people were. Bat Yoshinaga retired on this show,
Yeah,
so
we're not
obviously
going to
not much.
talk about it, but she bet Yoshinaga did retire. Right? We'll talk about it
Not
like briefly, but
yeah, but not so without Bat Yoshinaga, there's obviously not much to really care about from AJW in the '90s. But yeah, so I just kind of thought, hey, this is a show I've never seen before, and it's an interesting one, and it also kind of falls in like this weird time period because uh, it was a month before Big Egg,
hmm
so like this is like their big yearly show, but none of their top stars are here
yeah,
because
no.
they're saving up for Big Egg when like in the dome, right? So like Bull obviously wasn't here. Like I said, Hokuto wasn't here. Like
Well,
there,
Hokuto had like went to like Mexico or whatever because she got married for a little bit and then she came back
yeah,
and I don't think she like returned. I think didn't she return at like the Big Egg to do the V top?
yes,
Because like her whole story is like, all right, if I win the V top, I'll come back. But if I can't win the V
I
top, then
retire.
it's whatever.
She kept just saying, "I'm going to retire. I'm going to retire, guys. I'm going to retire, guys," and then she just didn't. But besides the point, uh, beyond just like AJW talent, it also meant that like they didn't have a lot of great lone talent, and by great I mean like notable. No Dynamite and Size were on the card. They did have like some JVP talent. This was a
Hmm.
card that was like had active JVP participation,
Yeah,
but
we had a
none of like the
JWP tag
real
title match on this show.
yeah, but none of the real heavy hitters were
Yeah,
involved with
no.
this one. So it was an interesting kind of look for the time in '94 to watch, and I was excited for it. But yeah, that's a little bit of the background on
Yeah.
WrestleMania
And I mean,
'94.
it's not just like we decided after looking at all the shows we've done, it's like, oh, we really need to get back to the 90s. Like, originally, when this idea was coming together, that's something that we wanted to do is just go back into, Joshi from the prior millennium, if you will, prior to
This is our
2000.
first. This is our first AJW show too.
Yeah, yeah.
Shocked to see.
Like one thing with AJW is I never wanted to get. I like to shy away from the popular picks, so like that's why we haven't done like a New Japan show on here. We haven't done. I'm trying
Kings
to think.
Road.
Oh, yeah, like Kings Road stuff. Like I want to shy away from popular stuff, and I think the fascinating thing that I thought about after sitting here after watching the show and just was thinking about like possible other stuff we can do in the future is just that while AJW's peaks and like some of like the big stuff and the big names are known, I don't think many people have gotten into the shows like that much as far as from like a review capacity. Of course, you had
Mhm.
VTG with Alex and all that. So, I mean, outside of y'all, I don't think a lot of people truly have, sat through some AJW shows. I mean, obviously, most people just go for the matches that they're recommended, which I mean, understandably, but I just think there's fun in seeing how, a whole card looks in like a certain year, especially like when they have like rookies who go on to do things in the future or who like, maybe fall off in the future. Just there's just so much interesting stuff to get into with these full cards. So I think
Totally.
that's that's just another thing. As where I can like kind of take AJW out of that category with like King's Road and like all that, because like I feel like King's Road is
Everybody's
like,
seen everything from AJPW in the 90s.
well, not only that, but King's Road has just been beaten to death from like, videos, articles, just everything.
Hmm.
Surprisingly enough, while like, the peaks and, like, I mean, obviously you have people that say like Manami Toyota is the greatest wrestler of all time. One, they're just trying to be cool. Everybody says that, but two, I still don't think a lot of those people have, dove into the archives of
Yeah,
AJW and all that. So it's cool
I,
to go back in time.
I am excited to talk about the main event because I think I'm kind of that main event made me look at Kyoko and Manami Toyota's goat case. Obviously, Manami Toyota is a way stronger one amongst the general public than Kyoko does, but it made me kind of like think about why people love them more than I necessarily
Oh
do.
no, yeah. You know what's funny is I
Because I like
I
them both,
actually
but it is an interesting
I
thought
actually
I
went
had.
the a similar route in the main
Mhm.
event instead of going like move per move like I usually do. Because watching it, we'll get to it later, but I kind of thought of that. I was like, you know what, I I can understand why people like or dislike these
Yeah,
two.
but
Um,
real quick, want to show off the background.
yeah,
A little bit of love to the 1994 stylings of the background that I chose that I created for the day. That
including
picture in the
us.
bottom left is Saki Hasegawa kicking the fuck out of Bull Nakano.
Some of the
Um,
stuff we just can't change, like the
yeah, like
Kamatani versus Natsu, like the videos and stuff. They're like
I'll
sideways.
change them someday. It's just that one's it's so much more like difficult, so much more intricate to change. So
Yeah,
I'll get to that at some point.
yeah.
But
Like I said, I didn't force Dylan to make a new background every time
no,
we do
I
this,
do
but
this.
I mean, we can't really come up with an idea as far as when to keep. So it might just end up being like this all the time. But yeah, as always, buddy, we're gonna get into our predicted match of the nights and predicted
Mhm.
worst match of the nights. I'll go first and then kick it over to you. So, predicted worst match of the night, I had the mini match with little Frankie and Tomezo Tsunokake. I was just like, there's just no way. Like, we'll obviously talk about the history of minis and Joshi when we get to it, but like, I was like, there's just no way this isn't just fucking comedy and just like not good.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I was like, I just don't think I'll enjoy it from that standpoint, especially uh, looking at the rest of the card. And then my predicted match of the night was actually Mariko Yoshida and Yumiko Hoda, because while they weren't quite at their peaks yet, I still like both of them in their younger
Mhm.
incarnations, where they were at this time. I actually think Yoshida is quite underrated from this time period. Obviously, she isn't the demon grappler she would become to be, and I do have a note about that, but still pretty damn good. And Hoda is she's just always been good because she's just always kicking people. I think if you kick people and you're good at kicking, you're just always going to be good until you retire.
You have a solid floor when you have that behind
Yeah.
you. Um, Yeah, I had it similar. I thought that both like I was just looking at both tag matches as like those are going to be probably the
Yeah.
best matches of the night. And then while I did say the minis, I also noted that the opener
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
been
That was
just
my
because
other one.
I was like it's a rookie opener as much as I love Maekawa and what she becomes and everything I've seen from Noichi. She was always solid. Like
Mhm.
she was always a solid hand. I was just like it's probably just going to be a typical
Mhm.
rookie opener that isn't super impressive. So I was kind of between those two, whereas the tag was, or both the two tag title matches were the ones that I was eyeballing as the best of the night.
Yeah. No, couldn't agree. So let's go ahead and jump into the show with the opener, which is Kumiko Maekawa, Big May, taking on JWP's Fusayo Noichi. Um, for me, not much to note here. It's just a standard rookie match. I do think if I were to take anything away from this match personally, it's just how great their basics looked for 94. Like a lot of their moves and stuff. I was like, this is just really good basics. Like I think if you drop two rookies like this into today with as good as fundamentals as they both had in this match, I think we'd be pegging them as future world champions, to be honest,
Yeah.
just because of how super solid they were. And I was like, this looks nice. I don't know. It's something me and you talked about before, just the way matches look in older Joshi, because not everything's clean. Moves are done a lot differently. Of course, now
Yeah.
have people trying to clean up moves. It wasn't like that back then, which is a fun thing. Maekawa won with the Canadian backbreaker as an ode to Miyu Watanabe. So, what you think about this opener?
It's actually an ode to Reggie Bennett with the Reggie rack. Yeah, I liked it. I will say, so sort of like a comment on what you said. It's
Mhm,
interesting because like by the '90s, the AJW training system was kind of perceived to be washed.
mhm,
Like they just and like obviously we got people like Maekawa,
mhm,
and like Nanai and like
mhm,
Momoe, but
mhm,
in comparison to like you look at the 85 class or the 86 class or most of the classes from the 80s, the 80 class, 81 class,
mhm.
not 81 class, I think the 81 might have been not great, but you look at a lot of the classes from the 80s, they are like legit like 10 of the best wrestlers ever.
Yeah.
You know what I
It's
mean?
just an embezzlement of riches.
Like when you look at the class of 1987 and the class of 85,
Yeah.
that creates like legitimately 12 of the best at least role players in professional wrestling history. When you look at Suzuka Minami, even is like one of the best tag wrestlers in that era. And I think by 91, 92, 93, when a Meikawa was debuting, it just didn't have as much staying power. So looking at Meikawa here is very interesting, and I really like it because you can kind of see some of those like early points that she was at and like where she would go from here. You saw a forward vision from her,
Mhm,
even though it was a pretty formulaic, uh, you know, rookie match. I did like what Fusayo was doing as
mhm.
well. I thought she did a lot of fun stuff, but it was mainly Big May. Slowly incorporating some kicks in there, and I was like, oh, that'll be important, and whatnot. But yeah, I agree. It was nothing special. I think it could have been a bit shorter, to kind of get a better match out of them.
Yeah.
But I also understand it's you want to get the rookies reps. Also, quick note: Maekawa came dripped out of her fucking mind in the Adidas. Shit was crazy. She had like that shit on, bro. You
Oh
can see it
yeah.
in the picture here, but
Oh yeah,
like
yeah,
you
yeah.
can't really see it. Like she
You can't
was
see the full fit.
she was
It was
drippy,
crazy.
bro.
How do you have the match cards? What do you have next on the match card? Because I don't know if you noticed this in Inside
Oh,
Baseball for the
I
people.
it next is the mini match.
Okay, yeah,
But
because
the
I took the
playlist
one
we
off the
watched
cage
was
match, but like if
yeah.
on the YouTube playlist that we have, this shows on YouTube, by the way,
Off
if
of
anybody
the off
wants.
of the VHS tape,
Yeah.
it because I read over a review of the show just to see if it was like if there's anything vital I needed to uh know about it. And yeah, the minis match was next up. I don't have a picture for it.
Yeah,
Y'all are
but
gonna have to look up them weirdos by
yeah, yeah,
yourself.
yeah. But anyway, that's crazy.
Okay, not
um,
them weirdos. That weirdo. Little Frankie's my guy. I like Little
yeah, no,
Frankie. Other
Tomezo's
one's a fucking
a weird
weirdo.
guy. We had next up we had the minis match. We had Little Frankie versus Tomezo Tsunokake. Little Frankie is a fucking demon. I fucking
Little
love this
Frankie
guy.
kind of ruled.
He did a fucking capoeira kick to Tsunokake and then took his wig off. And then for some reason, Tsunokake got stripped naked. And I was just like, all right, man, let's
It
go
fell
ahead
apart
and
from there.
yeah, I was like, all right, man, let's get out of here. Sunakake did make a Frankie do a headstand and then spun him like a dreidel, which is pretty sick. um,
Little Frankie with
Sunakake,
the afro.
yeah,
If
yeah,
you
yeah,
don't know.
yeah. Shouts out little Frankie. Sunakake won total comedy match, but I thought little Frankie was beast.
Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah.
I thought
hey,
no, I
hey,
thought I
little.
thought I thought Little Frankie was
Yeah.
fun, like what he did. But the thing was that this was like a put over Tsunokake match, and I was like, why are you doing this? Like Little Frank, like Little
Is
Frankie is an
Sunakake? I
actual
think
worker.
Sunakake might be the one that becomes a zap.
No, it's Little Frankie. Little Frankie
Oh,
becomes
that's
that.
what's up. That's what's
Yeah.
up. Got to
All of
run.
the best wrestlers might have been in Zaps. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh
At some point
Jesus.
or another. Like was Leon in Zaps?
I
Somebody
I,
like
I will
sick
check.
was in Zaps.
I will check.
Um,
I don't.
there was a few sick people in Zaps, but besides the point. Yeah, I mean, like I thought that like I think this could have been good. I think Little Frankie is actually like fun to watch in his more entertaining matches. This one was just kind of a bit weird because Tsunokake just made me uncomfortable. He had sex written in his on his head.
Yeah,
Because he had a weird wig on, and then like you said, Frankie tore off the wig and it revealed the word sex along his scalp, and I was just like, oh, that's frightening. And then little Frankie no sold a giant swing, quote unquote giant swing. And that was really
that's
funny. But then like Tomoze did like air magic where he would like throw up the X and little Frankie would just bump his ass off. He wouldn't even hit him. He would just it was a weird match. I would say you have to see it to believe it, but I don't think you guys gotta see it. Um, Go watch a better little Frankie match, frankly, because I've seen him in highlight reels. He can cook. I know that much. This was not that though.
yeah, unfortunately not. But next up we had the Fighting Watanabe family's own Misae Watanabe and Tomoko.
Wait.
Oh, did I skip that? Oh no, I just have them out of order. My bad. That's on me. But next up we have Rie Tamada versus Hiromi Yagi of JWP. I'll let you go first with this one, just so I can.
Yeah, this was a match between future Twin Star Varjan champions together in 01, which I think is really cool. But yeah, I heard in the pre-match they called this a junior league match, and they both wore
Yeah,
sashes. So I'm guessing it was a junior league match, even though that tournament isn't really recorded anywhere. Yeah, I thought this was a good match. I thought Tamada was really good in her junior state. Like as a young wrestler, she really knew she had strong fundies, frankly, and I think that was like the bread and butter
mhm.
of these matches. But also, she's did super well. I've always been a big Hiromi Yagi fan. Every time I see her, I'm just like, man, she's fucking sick. And I thought this was an example of that as well, even though it was early into her career. I read online that she was 9 months in at this point. Yagi
It's
was,
crazy.
and she was just like actively very good. So I thought that was pretty impressive. And yeah, I think that it was a fun match. Yagi threw some judo throws, which I'm always a big fan of. And I'm kind of shocked how well they went to the 15.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like I was shocked at how effortlessly it felt because it really didn't feel like it was taking a long time. And
no.
for two wrestlers who are so early into their careers, you would think it would be difficult to watch. But it was a fun match. I enjoyed it quite a lot.
By the way, cage match hasn't flipped. That's why. Um,
Gotcha.
anyway, Yaki has her legs wrapped around Rie and a body scissors, but like she's facing her for some reason. And to get out of this, Rie grabs her with like a double fistful of hair and just slams the back of her head on the mat. And I was like, "This is what's up." um,
More people gotta do that.
yeah, Rie is a menace in this match. Yaki is like such an interesting watch because obviously, as mentioned, she's not where she would become. However, the foundation for what she does become is there. She
Yeah.
applies a nasty heel hook when Rie misses the drop kick from the top, and she's just trying to yank Rie's leg off. It's awesome.
We talked about this briefly through text that it's like Yagi felt like she was an early version of like the great wrestler she would become, and Tamada felt like she was the early version of a different wrestler.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
because we've
So
seen both of them in Arjan, we've seen both of
yeah,
them here, and it's like Yagi really like just like completely
Tamada
elaborated on her style, and Tamada
Tamada
did
just
not.
regressed. Like this was her peak, possibly.
Damn. No, it was probably a bit later into the 90s, but
Yeah, no,
before
yeah, for
the
sure,
late
for sure.
90s. But yeah, like it was strange because but even then, it's like what I've seen from Tamada later into her career, wasn't like an it wasn't an evolution of this. Like this
No,
was a completely different wrestler. It felt like,
oh,
whereas
absolutely
Yagi
different.
Yagi felt like what you would eventually see
Yeah,
is just not there yet.
you would have thought Tamada was gonna be like one of the fucking goats if you watched this, and obviously that's not what she became. Um, yeah, when Yagi does, it's not an arm drag. It's a judo though, but I'm pretty sure it's Ippon off the top. I like gasp.
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
was like, that's crazy. This is the perfect undercard match for me. I went in not like expecting much from it because obviously two rookies, time limit draw. I was like, all right, whatever, we'll get there. But they worked well with their time. They made the crowd care by the time that the draw came, and I think that's the important part for any draw. Just excellent stuff. I think it overachieved by a great bit. I think that's one of the things I just hammer in is just like to make the crowd care by the time a draw comes. It's an art.
Yeah, and
And
I mean, in this era of AJW, the crowd is a bit less easily
mhm,
enthused than they once were. So like matches can die pretty hard.
yeah,
Um, which I think actually we will talk about in a moment. Um, where a crowd just kind of like just didn't really give a
dies.
fuck. Uh, and so I think that is a big thing that you like. That's a great point. Is that they did kind of get like this like atmosphere behind them, which you wouldn't really expect from this match necessarily in 1994.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think they make it very apparent when they care and don't care. So, um, now it's time for the two members of the Fighting Watanabe family, Misae and Tomoko Watanabe, taking on Chaparita ASARI and Suzuka Minami. Um, I'm glad that you have this picture because I like my first note is the size difference between Asari and Manami in the pre-match promo is insane, and it's also the same for Misei and Tomoka. It's like wild. um, Misei Watanabe for anybody who doesn't know, it is Misei Genki. She goes on to have a pretty long career. She doesn't retire to like 2008. Very accomplished. Asari's just so good in this match. She's zooming around
Yeah,
the ring. She's like wrestling circles around Masai. Tomoko did a sick ass Haragoroshi takedown to Suzuka Minami when she comes off the ropes. And I'll be honest, did not care about anything in this match. I just wanted one thing, and that was a fucking Suzuka Minami powerbomb. And that's what I got to
yeah, we
end the
got that
match.
shit.
Yeah, baby, that's the good stuff. If y'all have never seen Suzuka Minami do a powerbomb, you don't even need to go to YouTube. Just go to Twitter, type up Suzuki Minami powerbomb. A bunch of them will pop up.
She's one of the best, power
It's
bombs like
so
ever.
sick. Like I could care less about this match. I'll be honest. I like everybody involved, but I could care absolutely less about this match.
It
I
was a
just
long
want
card. We
yeah.
didn't mention that this is a 9-match card.
Yeah, it is a big card, and there's just
Yeah.
so much more interesting stuff that we're about to get into that I did not care about this match. I just want to get over with, but I wanted a Suzuka Minami powerbomb, and that's what I got.
Yeah, I liked this match. I thought that Tomoko Watanabe was a lot of fun. I thought she did some cool stuff. She was kind of entering into her like beast era,
Yeah.
because obviously she wasn't that. She's also a relatively young wrestler. I
Mhm.
think people for this time obviously. In '94 she was still pretty new. I think she might have been '89. Uh, or debut, and so by this point, her like really just like ragdolling Chaparita Asari was super fun. Like I thought that was a really cool spot. And as for Suzuka Minami, I think that she was nearing retirement at this point because they just didn't really have much for her. Like she didn't have
Mhm.
much forward trajectory, which is a shame because she kind of was like a regen of Devil Masami in a way,
Mhm.
and like I think she was tremendous, not as good as Devil Masami, but she
Yeah.
was great at what she did, and she was just really cool. And I thought that she did her pretty standard routine, but did it well, and I really enjoyed it. I do. I think you mentioned it that Asari did like a fucking mule kick spot.
Yeah, she did the space.
Yeah,
It's the space rolling elbow, but instead of the elbow, she does the mule kick. It's so sick.
yeah, that was like insane.
This
And
is '94.
that was when the crowd was like, "Oh fuck, what the fuck's happening?" Okay, I see this. I see you. I see you. And I thought that was really cool. And I thought some of the spots in this match were really cool. Misae Watanabe was kind of not
Whatever.
super relevant in this match. I would say.
It's
Uh,
okay. She gets to wrestle Satoshi Kojima
Yeah.
in like
Yeah,
20
eventually
years, so
eventually
it's fine.
she decides that she doesn't want to be in Double Watanabe because that was what their tag team was called. It's just Double Watanabe. Uh because, God, hey, there's one tag team in the company that both have the same last name. Let's capitalize on this shit, man.
You know what's a
Um
fucking shame?
hmm.
All of Suzuka Minami's All Pacific reigns are under. There's three of
Oh,
them. They're all
I've seen
under
them all.
100 days.
I've
I
seen
was
them
like,
all. They're all very disappointing. Not because of her, but because one of them she wins it and drops the belt because it was a double count out finish.
yes,
So she was like, I forfeit the belt.
3 reigns, 65 days. I fucking
Yeah,
hate AJW, man. This would have been my super mega 3WA world champion. Okay, you just need a good power bomb.
her man, her run is really upsetting. Because like when you watch, like you said, people will watch, like, go back and watch like individual cards or individual matches.
Hmm.
But when you watch a Dream Slam, when you watch a Saint Battle Day or a Wrestle Queendom, she's there and she's killing it in the second match of the card every single time.
Mm,
And it's really disappointing because she was, I mean, in 1990, she was in the best tag team of the year. Marine Wolves is one of my favorite tag teams of all time. Her and Akira Hokuto. And,
yeah.
like, it's just really a shame that routinely every single show by this point, by 93, 94, into 95, she just is just hanging out, just doing nothing, hopefully getting to hit the power bomb to finish the match, which she did here, and I was happy with that. But yeah, I thought this match kind of suffered from the crowd not really caring much. Um, it's kind of one where it's like, man, I just wish we could see Suzuka Minami in a better spot in this card. Uh,
She only had a 9 year
you know,
career. I wish like one of the other Joshi companies around this time was just like, hey bud, you come over
I
here, you come over here, getting everything.
I think it's interesting because I think if the Exodus, and this is a talking point about a match later on as well,
Hmm.
if the Exodus happened earlier,
Hmm.
I think that so many wrestlers would have had like completely different careers. I think the entire landscape would have changed for people like Suzuka Minami and Saki Hasegawa, who
Yeah,
retired pretty early, in 95, 96, before the 97 Exodus. I think those two are like people who could have gone to JWP, gone to Arjion, gone to
hmm,
Neo Ladies, and just really, you know, torched it
benefited.
down. But
Like,
they retired
not
early.
saying they had bad legacies by any means, but they
No,
definitely could have added to them.
100%. But after this match was the Bat Yoshinaga retirement ceremony.
Yep.
Shouts out to the homegirl. Did you watch it? Did you watch the
Yeah,
ceremony or
I
no?
did.
I love that they had a second come out with the pads and and let Bat get one last strike rush in, and I thought that was just super cool. I love her combos. Bat Yoshinaga is like a legitimately underrated tag team wrestler. Well, everybody knows her for like the martial arts stuff, the shoot stuff. Like her in tag matches, just being a hot tag, just killing people with kicks was so cool. I
Mhm.
recommend anybody go check out Bat and Bull Nakano versus Akira Hokuto and Mariko Yoshida, I want to say. It might have been Hasegawa. I don't remember. Hokuto and a tag partner. One of like my favorite matches from the early 90s just because it was just like Bat was going ham. And so yeah, shout out to uh, Bat Yoshinaga. She did get a written letter from Bull Nakano for her for that was read off during the ceremony that because Bull Nakano, like I said, was in America at the time, and she was the leader of Gokumanto. Bat Yoshinaga was a loyal member of Gokumanto, so that was really nice. You could see Bat kind of tearing up when they read the letter from Bull, and I thought that was sweet.
It was a
So
lovely
yeah,
ceremony.
shouts out Bat.
Um, I will say before we move on, this, yeah, everything we did up to this point is cool. But this, for me, obviously, is where my notes get a lot longer. The rest of the show is going to be like that, because we are now getting into the good stuff. It's a 9 match card, and match like 5 or 6 is when we're finally getting to the good stuff. So, you
It happens.
yeah, it is what it is. We ball. It's fine. Um, Next up, we had a singles match. We had Mariko Yoshida versus Yumiko Hoda. I'm gonna let you start off, but do you know, like, if this was a trial series or something? Because like, I know they mentioned like Mariko Yoshida like specifically before they did ring announcements and all that. I didn't know if this was like a trial series for her or anything. I mean, she's not a rookie, but like, could
I'm
just
not
done some
sure.
shit.
What I kind of read was that this and the Ito versus Aja match were kind of like two of the same coin in
Mhm.
that they were like these younger wrestlers challenging these older wrestlers that are kind of more like for Ito, she was in Jungle Jack, right?
Yeah.
So Aja was her senpai, and I think Yoshida as a obviously they were in like Sekigun, they were main army type people, but I think Yoshida kind of followed a lot in Hoda's footsteps in a sense. So I
Mhm.
think it was that sort of match, that sort of show was that it had like the younger wrestlers kind of getting to challenge. And Hasegawa versus Reggie, kind of different story, but similar
it's the
in
same
that
thing.
like
They were in the Holy Demon Army together.
yeah, but similar in the like kind of challenging up, trying to improve your rank as a
Hmm.
younger wrestler. So I don't think it was a Yoshida specific thing
Yeah.
as much as it was a card specific thing. Um,
Okay.
but I did really like this match. I thought it was a lot of fun. Um, the one thing I need to note is that Hoda randomly deep into the match just broke Yoshida's nose from
Yes.
like I was like just out of nowhere. Like they were just having like a pretty it was a good match, but it was just a pretty standard match. Then Hoda just stood up, like Yoshida was selling on the ground, she just kicks her in the face, breaks
I
her nose.
know.
I was just like, okay, damn. Like nothing to provoke it whatsoever. It was
She
just
just did it,
crazy.
and it's not like they
Yeah.
had like a big brawl or something afterwards. She just kind of did it.
Yeah, and I thought that was great. But yeah, one thing that kind of I forget about with this and Big Egg a month later is that Hoda's coming off of a Japan Grand Prix run this summer. Uh like 2 months beforehand. And she's coming off of several, attempts at the red belt. And she's just like I feel like Hoda had the perpetual not there yet a type of
Mm,
vibe in AJW until the Exodus, which even then, Shinobu Kandori kind of fucking big leagued her big time. Uh,
yeah.
and
Hey,
yeah,
what are you gonna do? Shinobu Kandori.
great matches, but yeah, sorry, homegirl. Um, but yeah, so I feel like when you watch this match and it's like it's a good match, but you're kind of like, damn, Hoda was like she won the biggest women's tournament of a generation, like Japan
Yeah, that
Grand
don't
Prix was
matter. We
what was
got V
going
Top
on.
coming. It's we got fucking Akira Hokuto coming back. It's
Yeah,
whatever, man.
see, like that's the thing is that it's like I feel like Hoda was always just kind of in that zone. But with that being said, she was always killing it. Uh, and I enjoyed this match a lot. I know you enjoyed it as well, so I'm gonna let
Oh,
you get
oh
into
yeah,
it.
yeah. Like I said, the next couple matches I got relatively long notes. This might be one of the longest, maybe. Um, what's fascinating about this is like the fact that they made their debuts in the '80s, and yet like neither of them have hit their peak yet.
No, yeah,
Like like obviously oh wait, I have a note about it later. I was about to jump, but okay. Anyway, they haven't hit their peak yet for what we would know them. Uh,
hmm
I don't know. I'm stumbling over words. Hoda did a sick tilt the world face buster as a transition move, but like she flipped Yoshida like she was doing a big ending. She basically did a tilt the world big ending. Um, obviously Yoshida wasn't the fucking grapple
she's still
demon.
trying to figure it out.
Yeah, she wasn't to the grapple demon level yet, but she still had like solid technical aspects to her game. Like
You
she
know
was,
what was, or you can finish your thought. Actually, sorry.
oh yeah, she was like very crisp with a lot of her technical work, and like obviously the pieces are there. She hasn't put them together quite yet. She also was like super agile and showed her like high flying style at this stage. She
Yeah,
was more of a technician flyer than like a pure technician that we would come to know her as. Before I go on, what were you saying?
that something about Yoshida in this match that was interesting in that vein that she was a bit more of an all-rounder at this point.
Hmm.
Uh she would like go to like trade strikes.
Hmm.
And eventually you find you like she just wouldn't do that anymore. She's like, "No, I'll just grab your leg. Like I'm not even going to fucking try to like kick you. Like you can kick me better, but I can just break your leg." And I thought that was like interesting as we watched her R's run from
Yeah.
98 uh and I've seen plenty of her title run. She wasn't someone who like was a shooter because she didn't really throw strikes
Mm-mm.
once she like really got to her prime.
She
She
was
was just like
just
I
she
don't really
just
need
leaned
to.
into the technical aspect.
Yeah, and so I thought that was an interesting aspect of this match, and I was like, oh, she's gonna die because
Yeah.
Hoda's better at that than you are.
Um, to the point. Like I said, I think technical demon Mariko Yoshida is like one of the best wrestlers ever to me. Like
Mhm.
probably top 30 at least, maybe higher. But like she's still really good at this level. Like if
Yeah,
anybody came out and was wrestling like she did in this match, I would consider them fucking great. um,
yeah. And she
um,
was a way better tag wrestler this time too. Like this is
yeah,
like
yeah.
this is her weaker
It's
area
like
is a big singles match.
it's like legitimately crazy how and this is in my notes, how both of these people, I mean, not less more so Yoshida than Hoda, but like they're just two different wrestlers whenever they get to the point that they're really good to great.
Mm.
More so Yoshida, like she's just completely different. Like the aspects are there, but when she gets to her peak, it's really something. Hoda hasn't gotten really into that one Triple H Yogo yet, but she still has that smug look on her face of "you can't fuck with me," really. um, and it's funny because as I was typing that, I said, "And on cue, she just kicks Yoshida right in the fucking face."
Yeah, that was fucked up.
It's listen. It's so fucked up, but it's awesome. You should fucking watch it. It's so sick. Hoda Samoa Joe to Yoshida springboard, and that doesn't sound bad, but it was to the outside and nobody
Oh
caught
yeah,
Yoshida.
she's ate total shit. She is face
Yeah,
planted.
yeah. It's like where she dove. Everybody that could have caught her were like 3 steps back. um, but you know, it was fine. It was fine. This match was gritty. It was nasty. Hoda wins with the pyramid driver. I fucking love this match, man.
No, I thought it was a lot of fun. I really liked the finish as well. There was like some roll up near falls on
Yeah.
Yoshida's part, and then Hoda just won with the Ricola bomb. Uh,
Hey, that's a
I
pyramid driver, bud. Come on.
yeah, it was a she hit when she hits it the way she wants to hit it. It's the but that was a Ricola bomb. But yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun. I was probably a bit lower on it than you were, but I did
Oh,
think
100%.
it was among the better matches on this card because it was a very very good match. And I always like seeing Hoda. I think Hoda's run around this time is super underrated because I think people do know her as like the one who got the hand me downs or
Mm-hmm.
the leftovers. But I do think her 94 was a great year. We watched her versus Yoshida together a few months ago. And that was
Mm-hmm.
from her running the Japan Grand Prix this year, and it was also very very good. I think when you put Hoda in there with somebody that kind of like clicks with her around this period, it's just so much fun, and this is one of those cases.
For sure, for sure. Next up, we have the JWP Tag Team Championships, the champions, LCO, Etsuko Mita and Mima Shimoda, taking on the JWP team of Command Bolshoi and Hikari Fukuoka. I'll go first because I do have some tidbits about this JWP tag run toward the end. So I'll just go ahead and go first. This is the true LCO experience because you're getting a brawl on the outside within the first 3 minutes, and that's what's up, man.
I
It's
know
all
this was pre brawler LCO too.
yeah, yeah,
They were like, why are you trying to fuck with us? Just kill
yeah.
you.
No, it's like they weren't brawling LCO yet. They were just assholes.
Yeah,
Because I mean, to their credit, Bolshoi and Fukuoka did start. But
yeah.
like, what's funny is after watching that, I was gonna say we need something like this in modern Joshi, but I've seen a faction attempt this and I don't want to see it again. um
Somehow, my Sakura is the only person that can crowd brawl these days. My Sakura
apparently
and Nanae Takahashi,
for
obviously.
sure.
That's not a shock.
For sure. The Na is just gonna throw everything at you.
Nanae's just the only one who could do everything in wrestling at this point. It feels like
Yeah, she's the international treasure. Come on.
100%.
Um, everything LCO does, they just have this venom behind it that I can't explain. It's not like they're shooting anything. They just have venom behind every little move they do, and it's such a breath of fresh air because nowadays it just seems like when somebody tries to do that, they just like try too hard. I think oddly enough, the only ones in Joshi they can act with like the same venom is like the Edo crew of like Sari, Nakamori, Yako
Mhm.
Sato, and like Hazuki whenever she's rolling. I think everybody else when they try to do it, it just kind of seems off a little phony. Um, and it's funny that it's the Edo crew, but
Hey, best trainer.
I love that in this match. Sometimes they just ignore even trying to tag out. They just like switch. It's like, all right. The way they did the double dive is like kind of crazy. So, Bolshoi does an Asai moonsault, and then Fuoka is just like, "Hey, everybody get up! Everybody get up! Everybody get up!" And she just does a crossbody. I was like, "Oh, that's sad." um, Shimoda blocking the space rolling LO by simply kicking Akari Fukuoka in the back is just big brain. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know how more people don't do that. It didn't matter because Fukuoka gave her an avalanche power slam in a tiger driver, but still great counter. The Mita Tope Suicida is up there with the Joe one for me. She's just so lengthy compared to everybody else that it just comes across so great.
Etsuko Mita is only tall when she wants to be, it feels like.
Yeah.
Because like she just her style is not someone who is shoehorned into being 5'10",
Yeah.
which I think she's either like 5'9", 5'10". But
Yeah.
like that's not the style she works. She just is sometimes like, oh yeah, and by the way, like look at me standing next to Command Bolshoi and tell me there's a god. Like like this is not fair for Bolshoi.
Yeah, like I said, I just loved it because like I can't explain it, but just like the camera view of her doing the dive, it's just like, oh my god. Mima got like crunched on her neck because
Oh yeah.
Bolshoi did a top rope German to her, and I was like, God, Jesus, man, that's not right. Bolshoi absolutely robbed me of the dead leg driver, but it's whatever. Mima beats her with the tiger suplex, so it's fine. It's fine. So the stuff I wanted to add on before I'll let you say your piece. LCO does drop the JWP tags to Fukuoka and Mayumi Ozaki in January. Oddly enough. Bolshoi actually doesn't clock her first reign with the belts until January of '99 with Carlos Amano.
Yeah,
And,
I was thinking that.
and
I was kind of
before you go on,
okay.
and guess what, Dylan? Guess what? They dropped to the Zaps.
Oh, that's something I was going to bring up earlier. I totally forgot to. Shouts out the Zaps, but this show didn't feature her, but she was actually very prominent because Ria Tamada and Hiromi Yagi, that match in the Junior League, the junior champion at the time of AJW was Candy Okutsu. And
Yeah,
I think
you're
that's
right.
sick because they both challenged her for the belt within like the next month or two. But yeah, no, that's mad funny. But I was gonna say, I think the thing I look at this match for, like I kind of dock points of it for, is I think it would have been better if a couple years later, especially for like a Bolshoi,
Yeah.
who I think was still not even finding her footing because she was very good in this match,
I was
but
gonna say she was
finding
very good in this match, but she really leans into the
her politics maybe, like finding her like okay, like I'm going to get an equal amount of offense,
yeah.
not even equal, but just like I'm going to like be a bit
Well,
more
it
of a
helps that like she becomes like one of the biggest JWP names
yeah.
later. Like she obviously, there's just no
Oh
way
yeah,
she was
yeah.
gonna be that at this point.
No, I agree. But
But
and
it is
even
funny that
for
like
LCO,
Fukuoka just turns around and wins the belts with Ozaki. like
yeah, that's the old school. That's the Utami and Sayakamatani getting the belts when Utami and Momo tried. It's like Momo is stronger than both. What? How is that? How is that booked? That's not how that's supposed to work. Though command Mayumi Ozaki. Who's to say?
yeah,
Um, But no, that was also the thing about this match is that I think LCO was kind of in a transitional period here, which I
yeah,
think was interesting to see because obviously like a year prior, 2 years prior especially, they were Hokuto's partners. Like that's
yes.
what LCO was the two people
LCO originally was
Hokuto
those three
hangs out with.
because of the Mexico
Yeah,
ties.
yeah. And I mean, it always kind of was. It's just like, eventually I think Hokuto and Mima Shimoda tagged together as the as LCO when Itsuko Mita leaves. No, I think maybe she got hurt. I don't know. But I think LCO was kind of in a transitional period between being like the trio with Hokuto and
To be in
being
the
like
tag team.
the tag team in Joshi wrestling, like the number one tag team in every company ever,
Yeah.
basically. They were kind of in that in between point. So I think that was interesting from a stylistic point of view because they weren't these super brawlers, for example. They weren't as cutthroat as they would become, but they also weren't, the young and hungry types because they were in the game for a while now. This was their 8th year,
Yeah.
7th year maybe.
Mima Shimoda's still in the game. It's
Oh yeah,
2024.
oh yeah. Shout out to Yamima.
Yeah,
But
shouts out.
I did think that was an interesting kind of
More
aspect to it.
important to New Japan's legacy than Kazuchika Okada. There, I said it. But continue.
She should go in the WN Hall of Fame. But yeah, and I think Fukuoka is probably the person we're going to talk about the least in this match, even though she was like one of the best wrestlers in JVP for the
Yeah,
decade.
she was good in this match. It's just
No, I
that
thought she was great.
it's just that I don't want to say everybody like outshined her, but you're just gonna remember more from what the other three did.
And
It's
I
just
think similarly, I've seen like all-timer matches from Fukuoka near the end of the decade. She also grew to become better from this point. So I think that was kind of what I took away from this
if
match.
anybody's got the old JWP tapes, y'all know where to find us, man. Come
Yeah, but I think that's kind of what I took away from this match. In a way, is that it's like none of them were in their final form. I
on.
think that did take away a little bit from the match in general because on paper it is incredible and in practice it was very very good. I enjoyed
Yeah,
it quite a bit. I thought it was a super good tag match, but I think I might have overestimated where they were all at in their careers at this point. Um, because even just a couple of years later, by 96, 97, LCO will have main evented a WrestleMarinepiad, and that would have been a huge moment for them, and they will be the biggest tag team in Joshi, and Bolshoi will be a stronger member of the roster. Fukuoka will get her run at the top of JVP. So just a few years later, I think this match would have been like match of the year type, but I don't think it was there at this time.
we somehow narrowly escape reviewing just one absolute classic LCO match, which
Every time, yeah.
I am okay with watching any LCO match. They I think they're the greatest team of all time. I fucking love them. However, it's like we always barely miss like that one
It's
great
always
tag.
they're always very good. You know what I mean? They're always
Yeah,
like, yeah, that was good,
and it's just
but it's never like the real
it's
SEO.
I think it's worse because like we know that they have
Yeah,
many of those great matches in the catalog and we just missed them. But yeah,
there was that one match with widescreen that was great. The
yeah.
was that with Sumi?
Yes, I think.
I think that was very good. Yeah, the tag.
Like I said, had a lot of fun. Dylan said 4.75 stars. Anyway, moving on. We had Aja Kong versus Karu Ito. Aja is the 3WA champion, although she does
This
not
is
have
a
the belts.
this is a special singles match. They're both
Is
champions
I was going to
actually.
say, isn't Ito the AJW champ?
Yes, she is the undercard AJW champion.
Um, I
Excuse
I
me. Damn.
I just want to say my piece here. I said immediately, God, this show was just a way for Dylan to talk about Karu Ito again.
Fuck yeah.
Um, I don't think I'll ever get tired of seeing Aja matches just at all on this series because it's like Aja's still great to me.
Yeah.
However, mobile Aja is just a different animal. Like I think Aja, I mean, we covered her, or I covered her goat case on the 5 Star Network.
Yeah.
But I think if you're just talking, like say casual conversation, me and you, she has the similar goat case that like Shaq has in basketball because she's the most dominant force like
Yeah.
in wrestling of all time, and like still,
She's a different animal.
still
Yeah.
that. And like what makes her so special is like she 90% of the time is just dominating the match until the absolute peak and then the finish. And even then, when she wins the match, she also has the finish as well. I think a lot of wrestlers have tried that, but it gets like very stale very quick if you're
Hmm.
not like, I mean, obviously, I was just one of the best ever, but if you're not a skilled enough or smart enough pro wrestler, if you were on top, like dominating matches for like over 30 years, it definitely would get stale. And with Aja, I still don't think it's stale. She just gets it.
She's still killing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That she had. Well, actually, these two had the tag match against Meltzer earlier this year that I thought was like one of the better matches on All Star Grand Kingdom, uh, which is very funny. Um, that Aja's still like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't appreciate you trying to tag current day Karu Ito into Aja's greatness, but that's
I'll
fine.
do what I do.
Um,
Hey, everybody's got to thank the bus driver sometime.
I mean, I guess whatever. Man. Asha has like my favorite power driver of all time because of her form. It just looks nasty every single time. It's either her or Jun Akiyama. They both have like really nasty forms. I don't know, something about a power driver with a little hop. Just it excites me. I like it. Ito has a good comeback. She gets to hit DDT, a big German, and even like whips out the double foot stomp from the top. She showed a lot of fire, but unfortunately for young Ito, when it's time to go home, it's time to go home for Aja Kong. Hurricane, backdrop, fuck you, pin, we out.
I think the problem with Ito's performance here is, like I said earlier, the AJW crowd at this point just was not going to like give you anything that you don't earn a million times over.
Yeah,
So like nobody believed Ito was going to win this match, and they shouldn't have. But because of that, her comeback, which was a well worked comeback and a fun comeback,
it's just the crowd
was
didn't feel like
they
she
were
earned
just
it.
like there's like okay, so when is Aja gonna win?
Yeah, that's fair.
I was waiting for when's Aja gonna do a move? I know you're not going to win. When's Aja going to do something? And like they just didn't give a single fuck. And it's a shame because I've seen great, you know, underdog babyface performances from Ito during this time. I know people make fun of me for being an Ito fan, but like watch the opener to Dream Slam, and it's one of the best matches on one of the best cards ever. You know, because Ito had a great performance in part. You know what I mean? So like I've seen Ito have great, you know, like underdog fiery babyface performances around this time. I don't think she was able to here because the crowd just wasn't buying it. But that did allow me to kind of focus on how well Aja did, because she was in her cerebral kind of mindset at this point. This was the year that she, as can be seen on the poster. Oh wait, no,
Mm-hmm.
on the over there on the poster. Uh, she this was the year that Aja like ripped apart Yumika Hota's arm and like bloodied it and just was like a psycho limb targeting in that match where was like, oh, I'm just gonna break your arm and make it bleed over and over again. So Aja was kind of in the business to be breaking arms, and I think that's what this match was kind of relying on was Aja just like, I'm just gonna stomp on your arm a bunch, I'm gonna power drive you, I'm just gonna fuck you up. And I thought that her output here, I thought both their outputs here were great, but I think that just like the placement on the card, the atmosphere, I think it was kind of missing something for me. Ito in the Peter Pan fit, crazy look. Also, just need to note that, and also Jungle Emperor, still goaded, still goaded.
Um, the next match is probably the craziest semi-main event I can imagine. I mean, not really from a logistical standpoint, but when you look at like the previous three matches we talked about, I wouldn't have predicted that Reggie Bennett and Saki Hasagawa got the semi-main. I mean,
I know 94 Hasegawa too. Like
yeah,
Hasegawa was always good, but putting it in the seven man is interesting in 94.
yeah, with Reggie too. No offense
Yeah,
to
obviously.
Reggie, I was just like, yeah, it's weird. But obviously we have Reggie Bennett versus Saki Asagawa. Like I just told you, I thought this was an odd choice for the semi-main, but hey, I mean, I guess we have to take into fact we have a 30-minute main event coming up, so um,
Yeah.
you need something small to prep for that. Reggie did a really nice Oklahoma Stampede in this. I wanted to see how long Reggie had like been in AJW at this point while I was watching this, and the answer is a year. Uh, she did FMW, but
Yes,
she'd been in AJW for just a year at this
she
point.
did. She also did original JWP. It's not on Cage Match, but I have
Yeah,
seen a couple of matches from her in 1990 in JWP.
but
She was around.
but I just want to stop reviewing this match for 1 second because as I was reviewing this, I came across comments from the same person on her cage match, and I just want to read these to you for just one moment.
Oh, are they the
Uh,
zeros?
no.
Okay.
Um,
Because I was gonna, I saw Reggie Bennett like just have a random like two zeros. I was like, what the
no, no,
fuck?
no,
She's
no, no.
not that bad.
Um, it's two different people, and I think that's hilarious because they're like arguing with each other in cage match comments. So the first one it was in 2020. It says two, not a good wrestler at
Yeah.
all. The only thing she had was reverse moves, submission holds, and powerbomb. I'll be honest, that just sounds sick. An oversized woman that was sloppy in the ring never excited me. Yes, she was well known in Japan, but that's all. In my opinion, she was not the hardest worker out there, and that's probably why a lot of people don't know her.
That's wild
That
because she
is
was working
insane.
crazy hard.
That
Like
is
that's just
insane.
like objectively, she was a hard worker. Especially, you know,
Her,
depending on what year you're watching, you know, maybe you don't see it, but like there are tapes of her in that Argion fucking dojo
I was
for
gonna,
hours on end.
I was gonna say her run in the ARS tournament that we watched,
Yeah.
incredible. She was awesome. Um, but obviously, somebody was nice. They came back,
Two
like
years
2 years.
later.
Yeah, I said I'm gonna give her a 7. I felt like the last post was a bit harsh. Yes, Bennett did have the Gaijin allure that allowed her to be moved perhaps further up the card than others. More talented native talent, but she or more than other talented native talent, I should say. But she was regardless pushed for a reason, namely her power moves and stature being a believable horse. Kind of like an attempt at a female Vader, but less protected. Basically, more so like a Scott Norton. That's
That's
fucking
insane.
sick.
But she would be the original Scott Norton because this was
Yeah,
before Scott
yeah,
Norton.
yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, Scott Norton, he actually might have been in the dojo at this time, but he hadn't
Oh
become
shit,
like
yeah.
world champ because he started in New Japan first. Um,
I'm forgetting that.
she was never putting on GOAT tier matches, but could be relied upon to work with pretty much anyone for a good match, especially some of the higher bouts with Toyota and Yoshida. She was never going to be a world champion anywhere, but had an aura of a legitimate threat that allowed her to practically eat up losses without looking terrible, which is harder than you think to maintain. She was never an amazing technical wrestler, which I kind of disagree with, or was any that complex in the ring, which is naturally an issue that more or less solved by her just going all in and being big and tough hoss. Having her be paired off with people she could, just hurl around and beat down. She had a pretty top-notch resume and a host of good matchups. So ultimately, it's down to preference. You know, reading both of those, the first one's just flat out wrong. Wrong, and this person might be like body shaming Reggie Bennett, and I don't appreciate that.
God damn.
Um, but like, I understand what they meant because, funny enough, my next note was, oddly enough, Reggie at this point was very much like Mozilla, where she has the flashes, but also there's that awkwardness in singles matches
Yeah.
like this one. However, you can also see like both of them really want to work to make their opponent shine. I think they're very comparable at this stage, but this is just at this stage. I think Reggie Bennett becomes like really good. Like I said, I think that one run in the ARS is just like incredible. She was tremendous. Like I thought her technical stuff was good, and that's not her bag. So
Yeah.
I thought those were like fascinating. I was like, I gotta read these Dylan because this is crazy. Um, Hasagawa gets like more than a lot from Reggie here. She absolutely dumps Reggie on her dome with a Uranagi. Caught her with a good rolling Sabat kick. I loved Reggie's little tilt the world power slam. That's like a
Yeah.
WWE 13 reversal classic. Um, she had a snap to it too, where it was just like fluid in one motion. I think somebody needs to do that today. Be honest with you. Somebody Chikugoto, if you want to watch this match and take this from Reggie Bennett, that's what's up. Reggie gets the win with the Reggie Rack. I actually, it was awkward, but I kind of enjoyed myself by the end. I was like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, no, I agree. One thing that I do think is interesting to note about Saki Asagawa for fans who may not, be super in tap with this sort of thing.
Mhm.
Um, she is like Sari stylistically is a descendant of Saki Asagawa, um, because Saki Asagawa kind of influenced wrestlers who she influenced Yumi Fukawa was the
Mhm.
main one, and Yumi Fukawa influenced Emi Kurihara, and Emi Kurihara
Influence. Sorry.
influenced Sairi. And so like you will see moves in this, like you said, that jumping kick and the Uranagis. Those are Hasagawa trademarks that have been passed down all the way to Sairi in the modern day, the best wrestler in the world, right? Like I think that's a really interesting thing to note about Hasagawa.
I
Uh
feel like we talked about Hasagawa before on the show.
we might have, I'm not sure,
Was it when
because
we talked about Arjion?
she only had one match in Arjan, and that was post retirement. So I'm not sure. We might have, and it's
But
probably the same point.
I think we were talking about the formation of Arjion, and she may have been brought up.
Yeah, it might be. It might be. I think that was. You won't know. You're right. Because I was gonna say. I think. Um, I'm gonna make the same point that I did previously. That if she had, made it and hadn't gotten hurt, uh, by the time the Exodus happened, I truly think she would be looked back on as like one of the best wrestlers ever. Um, because I think her getting an Arjion run, or depending on how that would work, maybe she stays in AJW if they're gonna push her and give her what money they have left, or maybe she would go to Neo Ladies, but she'd probably go to Arjion. And if she had gone to Arjion, I think she would have had one of the best runs of like anybody. because she was so good, and I thought this match really showed that. I agree that Reggie was not where she would eventually be. She was far from a finished product, and that's why she hadn't won a belt yet. She eventually does win the All Pacific title a couple years later,
Hmm.
and I think she wins IWA belt.
Yes, she
Um,
does.
yeah, so she eventually starts becoming more prevalent in terms of those accolades, but she was still not a finished product here, but I did think that she did a good enough job. I think Saki did a good enough job of helping her, and they just had a super fun match, I thought. I mean, it was a weird semi-main event, but I thought it was a fun match to watch, and I think that, like, you know, if you're just looking for a match that goes like 12 minutes and it's just like a fun David versus Goliath type thing, this is the type of match you want to check out. You know what I mean? Because I think Saki Asagawa is a deeply underrated and just a real gem of a wrestler that is definitely one of the biggest what ifs of the 90s. Because I've been alluding to it. She retires in 96 due to injuries. And obviously, that's a year prior to the Exodus, a
Hmm.
couple years before Arjan, where she's a pretty influential member of, or is she like, was she the GM or something? I know that she like worked
She did
for.
something behind the scenes because I brought it up, and you were like, "Oh, Saki Hasagawa." That was Saki Hasagawa.
Yeah,
I just don't remember off the top of my head.
I'm not remembering, but she was, she was helping. She was helping the Arjan crew, and I just think that if she hadn't gotten hurt and if she hadn't had to retire, she would be really like up there among the best wrestlers ever. Conversation, and I thought this match, while it wasn't like a match on her resume
Yeah,
necessarily, I thought it was a super fun match to watch, and I do recommend it. I think it was
yeah.
a good time.
I think this match is like full of what ifs. Saki Hasagawa and then Reggie Bennett's descendant Jesse Bennett. I think those are two huge what
Yeah,
ifs in
big
pro
Bionic
wrestling. So
J, shout out.
that's crazy. That's awesome. Anyway, we're going to the main event, the 3WA Tag Team Championship match. Manami Toyota versus or Manami Toyota and Toshiyo Yamada defending against Double Inoue, Takako Inoue, and Kyoko Inoue. Um, what I'm essentially going to do is I'm going to talk about the match, and then I want us to have an open discussion because obviously we had talked about we're going to
Mhm.
talk about a lot of different
I do
stuff.
I do want to talk about some of
Um,
the interworkings of the match as well, though.
Yeah,
I've
that's why I said I just basically just want to talk about the match, and then I want to have the open
We could
discussion
have the
where we could
second one.
talk
Yeah.
about star rating, the go case, just anything that we want to talk about as far as openly about this main event, because I feel like this is the match where we probably need to have like an open discussion like that at the end. But first, I'll talk about the match itself. Um, Toshiyo Yamada being announced for the last for the champion team as God intended. I guess we can talk about this now since I have it just right here sitting. How do you feel about 2 out of 3 falls as a set rule for tag titles?
I adore it. I wish Rossi did it. Like I wish he'd stole that and did it
I'm
for the
like
Kenstar.
very indifferent on it because I love the idea because I'm always for innovation. But also it's just like it feels like after a while it would be pretty hard for it to not get repetitive.
See, the funny thing is that it doesn't, in my opinion. As someone who's watched like probably 100 uh 3WA tag title matches. I just love them unequivocally. I think they're always super fun.
Yeah.
Early on, the way that they would keep it from getting too repetitive is they would throw in countouts and stuff like that, and dumb stuff
I
that people
think they
don't
would
like
have
anymore.
to do that to keep it
Um,
like not super repetitive.
they
I
it
do think
it depends.
I
Like,
do think like see on the flip side, like I said, I do like the idea because I think it allows them to maximize everything they have and like make the
yeah,
tag titles also mean something because they're like going like super long and all
everything
that.
that happens is like a true
Yeah, it
a true
matters.
like whoever wins this match is the true best tag team of the
Yeah,
two. There's no fluke shit. You
yeah,
know what I mean? And I
yeah,
I
yeah.
appreciate that from a kayfabe point of view. And as a wrestling fan, I like, for example, in this match, I love that 12 minutes in, Manami Toyota hit the Japanese Ocean Cyclone suplex
Yeah.
and won the first fall, and Kyoko Inoue's intestines were fucking killing her. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, she just had to deal with that for the rest of the match. That was like a whole nother layer that you can't tell. Like, that you can't tell that story
yeah,
without a 2 out of 3 falls step.
yeah.
So while I get maybe maybe not doing it for a title permanently, I loved it, and I also think that people should utilize 2 out of 3 falls matches more for tag team
Yeah, no,
matches
I'm all
because
for like
they're so much
utilizing the
better in tag
stipulation
matches than
more.
they are for singles. Like I
Yeah,
think
no.
people do too many 2 out of 3 falls singles matches and not enough tag matches. Fucking
Well,
CMLL
have
gets
you
it.
well, have you considered that nobody cares about tag wrestling? Okay, back
Yeah.
to the match. Doomsday flying Zagiri is nuts from the champion team. As you mentioned, I have here in my notes. Manami gets the first fall with the Queen's Landing. Um,
Be real.
yeah, Japanese Ocean Cycle and Suplex. I just love dropping the Queen's Landing because it's fucking
Oh,
awesome.
it's great.
It's a great bit. Um, one of my legit favorite parts of this match is Toshiyo Yamada just lighting
Yeah.
Kyoko Inoue up on the ground at the start of the second fall with kicks while she's like trying to get up. It's God, I love you.
That
Listen,
you know you go. You go.
I was gonna say by the end of this, I'm just like, God, Yamada and Takako are just not appreciated in the grand scheme of Joshi
Oh,
because
100%.
they're just awesome. But what were you saying before I go on?
The second fall is like one of my favorite Kyoko Inoue performances I've ever seen.
Yeah, you see,
It is so good.
I
Like
was
she was
actually gonna,
so good in
yeah.
that role. Because
Um,
she was just like, I don't know, the selling was on point. Like I said, after the Japanese Ocean Cycle
mhm,
suplex, she was selling her ass off, and I just thought that like her fighting back from that deficit really worked for her. I think that is something that like I personally see with a lot of wrestlers is like once they once they are no longer a believable underdog babyface, they lose something, and I think
mhm,
that's sort of the case with the Kyoko Inoue is like a couple years after this, you can't really buy her as an underdog babyface. At least I can't very much. Outside of like extreme heel heat type of situations, which
mhm.
are pretty hit or miss, especially in AJW by the late '90s. So I thought that this match was seeing a Kyoko Inoue performance this great in that second fall was like, man, like I was saying, that kind of like maybe remember like, okay, I get it. I get why everybody fucking love like people love Kyoko Inoue as someone who's kind of a detractor from of hers, because that second fall almost made me a
Yeah.
believer.
No, she was electric, but obviously I end up loving Takako more because she just does the realest thing of all time because she has Manami up for a tombstone, but she just starts repeatedly
She
kneeing
still
her
does
in the
that. I love that.
face and switching the knees before just dropping her with the tombstone.
It's one
Uh,
of my favorite spots is because
it's so sick.
she still does that. Like she did that at the
Yeah.
Marigold
Yeah.
show,
Yeah.
and she did it at the Stardom show last year. And she, you know, whenever you see her wrestle, she does that spot. Usually within like the first 3 minutes of a match. I was like, see, she's just the realest wrestler ever.
She's like, I'm
She's
like, she's like,
tremendous.
listen, I got to pull it out while I can. Of course, Kyoko gets the Niagara driver to secure the second fall. After a big double Inoue comeback, like you said, a sensational performance from her. She was like excellent in that match, in that fall. Um, I actually really like the psychology of the final fall.
Hmm.
Because Yamada and Toyota just come out swinging. They're throwing big bomb after big bomb, just trying to take out Double Inoue before they can get the ball rolling again. Because they just took that last fall and like, okay, we can't get caught slipping again, so let's just go at them and not even give let's step on their neck and not give them room to breathe. Obviously, that does not work, but I love the idea that they're just like, okay, they feel their tag titles slipping, and they're just going to put a stop to it before it actually happens.
I
And I think,
also appreciate
yeah,
in the same vein, uh, one thing that I noticed is that it felt like they were focusing so much of their energy on Kyoko
yeah,
because she was not only was she the wounded one, but she's also just generally by '94 she's considered like the stronger of the two.
yeah.
Um,
And she
just
was just
you know,
electric the entire match.
yeah,
So
but like she has like this she had the singles resume by then. She had already been a pretty prevalent wrestler, and Takako was as well. But Takako was often kind of seen as like the other, which obviously nowadays I feel like is insane because Takako is just one of the best wrestlers of her era. But so I appreciated the idea of them just like really going after Kyoko
mhm,
and then Takako coming in like a pinch hitter and
yeah,
just tearing through them
yeah,
because everybody's tired except for Takako.
yeah. Because
Takako's up and ready for some bullshit.
Kyoko has taken all the offense, and she
Yeah.
had this big comeback. And Yamada and Toyota have exhausted themselves by trying to maintain Kyoko while also dropping a fall to her. So they're exhausted, and Takako's like, I am fine. Speaking of which, she has an incredible near fall with the avalanche choke STO onto Manami. It was a great near fall. Like, the crowd bid on it, I bid on it.
Me too.
And then I love the finish, of course, of the Doomsday Avalanche choke STO from Double Inoue, and Takako's the one that gets the win because obviously, just from the psychology standpoint, as we just talked about, she wasn't tired. So obviously she comes in and she gets to be the hero for this final fall, and the crowd popping big for it. It was a great moment. Even though I loved the layout and how they did the third fall, I think the second fall was my favorite of the three.
Yeah, same. I agree. I think that like because of this, like the thing about second fall is that it was just like it was while it was like I said one of the best Kyoko Inoue performances I've seen. It was also one of the most fun Yamada performances you'll see
Mm-hmm.
because Yamada is usually because of her stature kind of like forced into being a underdog when she's far better just fucking assaulting you. You know what I mean? Like she's like way more fun to watch when she is just delivering an onslaught on her opponent. And I think you kind of got to see that there. But you also got to see her like, fall in the end. She fell to the Niagara Falls, uh, the Niagara driver. And I thought that that was really cool because you get to see Yamada be that, dominant, like aggressive, just like,
Yeah.
overpowering figure that we don't always get to see, but when you do, it's a ton of fun. And also, I wanted to note something that I found very funny. Nami Toyota by 94, such a dive fiend that
Yeah.
they were getting great heat. Gold Combo was getting great heat on Kyoko. They were just beating the hell out of her. Second fall, and then she was like, "You know what? It's been 3 minutes. I can go for a dive." She goes for a dive, misses, hot tag, and I was like, "That, like, I love that Manami Toyota, like, legit is like itching to hit a big dive, and then when she does it, it completely fucks up the flow of her team and just costs them a fall
For
eventually."
sure.
I thought that was just a super fun thing because like people who watch a lot of Toyota know that at a certain point she is kind of like only did dives for better for worse.
Mhm.
There for a while, and I thought that was funny when it's like because she usually was a bit more restrained in tag matches, a bit more I would say smart, a bit more intuitive, and a bit more nuanced in tag team matches. But it was very funny that it even came out here where it's like, shit, I can go for a dive, and she goes up to the top rope and misses. I was like, of course she does.
Yeah, no. I saw that. I was just like, you know what? And that's to bring us to our discussion. What would you personally like to talk about first? Would you like to talk about the GOAT cases of Kyoko and Manami first, or do you want to talk about the fact that this match got 5 stars, which is a novelty now in a current Joshi?
We could talk about the 5-star
Yeah.
aspect of it because I
I
think
feel
it's
like we're going to be
interesting.
able to get more in depth into the other one. So
Yeah,
I think
I think
this
it's
makes
I
sense.
think it's interesting. I texted to you that this is one of 7 straight up tag team matches to get straight up tag team women's matches to get 5 stars. Other tag team matches like the Thunder Battle. What is it called? Thun- Something. Uh,
Thunderdome? No.
Thunder Queen battle.
Yeah.
Uh, like
Thunderdome.
that was a 5-on-5 like 60-minute match. Like the like of a 2-on-2 match, only 7 tag matches for women have ever gotten a 5-star. I think that's very interesting, and I think like you can kind of understand why. I didn't give this a 10 out of 10 personally. I gave it a 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
I think it was a tremendous match. One of you know um, and I'm a pretty harsh grader, so 9 out of 10 is a pretty big
Yeah.
number.
No.
It's not bad by any means. Um, but yeah, I think when
But
you look at a Meltzer type,
yeah.
people forget how much he loves Kyoko Inoue. They remember how much he loves Minami Toyota. But I think when you watch a Kyoko Inoue performance this great, that it's like, oh yeah, if Kyoko Inoue is one of my favorite wrestlers,
Yeah.
and I watched this match, I would give it 5 too because like Kyoko Inoue did fucking tremendously in it. So in that sense, when you look at like the guy himself, I think that like it makes
Yeah.
sense. But then also like when you compare it to modern wrestling,
Yeah. Well, the reason we wanted to
You
talk
know.
about this is because as we're recording this day, Sari and Mayu Watani versus Vinny and Shiro Hashimoto got 4.75. And I personally feel that match was better than this one.
Yeah, no, I
And it
agree.
could be recency bias, but I personally think that match was basically a perfect match. Like, perfect. I think this one, while it wasn't a perfect match, it was pretty damn good. And it could just be the difference in times. And I mean, historically, Dave is just not attached to current Joshi wrestling. He's not. I mean, he usually asks for recommendations. I mean, he'll watch it. He's not like a hater or anything like that. But he doesn't have the same attachment now that he did back then to Joshi wrestling. And that probably plays a big part in it. But it's just like, come on, man. I promise you that Will Ospreay versus Pac match. I didn't watch it, but it was not as good as the fucking Zari as a man.
I thought that match was great, but it was not as good as the series.
Yeah.
I thought it was tremendous. One of the better
Yeah.
Ospreay matches I've seen in a long time, but still.
It's just fascinating because, like, of course the Utami and Shuri match got it.
Which kind of also plays into something that I've thought about, and sorry for interrupting. But I think there are matches that make sense.
Yeah.
I think Shuri and Utami, I still love that match to bits, and I completely understand why Dave gave it a 5, because it is the type of match that Dave would like.
Yeah.
But then
I didn't give it a 5. Now that I think about it, I didn't think it was 5, but I was willing for it to have 5 because I did think it was very good. So
yeah, but I think that the Sarism tag, the interesting thing about it is that I feel like that ticked the boxes that Dave would like. That's why I'm more confused, because like obviously we're just kind of talking because this is like a current event that we're both thinking about today. But it really doesn't matter because it's just Dave, and
but like
Dave's
at the
smart
same
about
time,
certain things and he's dumb about certain things.
It's just become a pattern to where he's just like, this women's match was good, 4.75.
It's
just become so much of a pattern that you have to raise your eyebrow.
Yeah, and I'm not someone who is all too critical of Dave, because I don't think it really matters that much. I think I said, he's smart when he's smart, and he's dumb when he's dumb.
Here's the thing. I'm in the same boat as you, but I'm looking at it in the grand scheme of Joshi as a whole. If he gives a match 5 stars, people are going to go watch that match. No matter what people say they don't care about the ratings, yada, yada, yada. If he gives something 5 stars, more and more people are going to go watch it. They're like, oh, he gave this 5 stars. I have to go see if this is as good as this 5-star match from like 87 that I like and see if it's worthy or something like that. And I think
that also brings up another point, is that like the best tag matches from the 80s also didn't get 5 stars. And those matches are probably better than the Sarism tag.
Yeah,
like that's still, where I'm like that's why I'm like not too
yeah, but at the same time, you have to take the change of times into consideration. And the stuff that he just throws 5 stars at now is, in comparison, is just like, if he's throwing that 5 stars, he can give this match 5 stars. Like, just because, not just recency bias, but this is legitimately 4 of the absolute best pro wrestlers of maybe not of all time quite yet, but just currently going regardless of gender.
Yeah.
And they're just having a masterclass tag in a small venue that's rowdy, and it's just a great tag match. You don't walk away from that match saying any other thing than that might be the match of the year. And I think, especially for someone, say like a Vinny, who doesn't really turn it on often enough to get that exposure to where people can see her at her absolute best, if he would have given that 5 stars, I think more people would have checked it out. I think more people, especially that have, casual viewers of Senjo especially, I think more people have a greater appreciation for Chihiro Hashimoto for the work she does in that match. And just the idea and spectacle of Mayu and Sari working as a tag is just incredible in itself. That you want that 5 star, not because, it's Dave Meltzer's 5 stars. It's just the idea that it deserves it, and people are going to check this out, and you're going to get more
Yeah.
eyes on Joshi.
I think a lot of like the way I see it is that I think his premise is kind of flawed
Yeah,
in that
yeah.
I mean, and we have firsthand kind of idea is that it's like he'll say, oh well, no women's matches nowadays are as good as the AJW ones. And while I sometimes agree, I like
Yeah,
we have a 1-to-1 here where it's like this was a tremendous match that we watched here. This
yeah,
this gold combo versus double Inoue match. Absolutely tremendous. I loved it. I put it in on my, greatest wrestlers ever match guide, which is it takes a certain barrier to get on that point.
yeah.
But I also think that you can watch this match and see like flaws in it
Mm-hmm.
that I don't think necessarily even exists in the series match, for example. Um, and that's not to say like, oh, I think this way, so he should think that way. I'm just thinking that it's
No,
like an
it's
interesting.
opinionated, but it's just
I
interesting.
I don't get it. Yeah, like, you know what I mean?
It's like I want to understand where he's coming from, but I don't.
And like I was getting at is that it's like I know what Dave likes when it comes to Joshi.
For sure.
Like the cage match last year, the Stardom cage match. I knew that wasn't going to get a 5 from him. Even though
Mm-hmm.
it got a 10 from me. I knew it wasn't going to get a 5 because it's like that's not really like how he cares. Like he doesn't care that much about that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But like the Saurism tag in the same vein as this match that we watched, from
Mm-hmm.
WrestleMarinepiad VI, they hold the same merits. I would say one's better, but even so, it's not like they are that far off from each other.
Yeah.
Especially not in the Saurism match was worse way. So I think that's kind of where I find it interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
but
like, once again, it's his opinion. It's just kind
yeah,
of frustrating because there's a pattern. If there wasn't so much of a pattern to where he has like all of a sudden like it's a joke on Twitter now,
it would have been
like
so
this
funny.
women's tax, if it wasn't just so eerily a pattern, it's just kind of like all right, whatever. But it seems like every match that feels like it's deserving of a 5, it's just like nope, 4.75, and
It
then
would
you
have
see
been
a
very
match that gets
funny.
like a 5, and you're just like, oh, okay,
It would have been very funny if you gave Diamante versus Layla Hirsch a 5. I still think he should have, just for fun, just because it would have been fucking hilarious.
yeah.
Because it's like, okay, of all things.
Before we get into our open discussion about Manami Toyota and Kyoko Inoue's GOAT case, I just want to remind everybody that Dave's got to be forgiven sometimes. He believed somebody under a fake email was Don Fuji writing to him about Dragon Gate, and it was incredible. And I wish I could go back in
I
real
think
time and relive that day again.
in spite of these criticisms, as I'm sure you guys can all tell, because I haven't been too harsh on him, I adore Dave Meltzer. I think he's the funniest person ever.
Oh yeah, no,
And I think
no,
he's like I said, I
don't
think
hate
he's
him. I
smart
just think
when he is smart, but when he isn't, he's a bit frustrating. But as for Manami Toyota and Kyoko Inoue, fucking Dave's like two favorite women's wrestlers ever, basically. Um, maybe not, maybe not Kyoko, but he
at least around this time.
of this generation, she was his favorite. I think they're interesting because I
Mhm.
think this match kind of reminded me that they just have a lot of great matches, and I think that's the problem for them. Like, because I've long been I mean, you look at these four people, right? I've always favored, and you have as well, Toshiyo Yamada and Takako Inoue over their tag team partners,
For sure.
respectively. But I also can understand
Yeah,
that
no.
when you look at Manami Toyota, for
Especially in this
example,
match, like you mentioned earlier, where she's like, I just have to do a dive. And it's just like,
yeah,
especially in modern time, especially if you think about AEW and like what it was built on, the Young Bucks and all that.
mhm,
If you see somebody like that, like even think about when Saya Kamatani was on her big run and she was doing crazy shit. It's like, oh, okay, you see a wrestler that just feels the need to do a crazy dive. I can understand why you're just like, this is just the best wrestler ever.
yeah, and
um,
I think
and and
the thing
funnily
about
enough, I think Kyoko Inoue had like a similar performance in here, where she's like, all right, I gotta do some fucking crazy shit. Like I gotta do this no look springboard missile
yeah,
drop kick. And I think the crazy part about Kyoko Inoue is like I think she's someone whose legacy is probably greatly impacted from her insistence on continuing to wrestle because
in a way,
obviously the Kyoko Inoue of now is not the Kyoko Inoue of old. Like her at her peak, she cannot do
She's
any of
pretty
that
cool.
now. Like, and that probably hurts her a lot.
I
As
I
will
don't think it hurts her necessarily though, because I mean I feel like
I
that's
do,
the case
because
for
like
like a lot of the
especially
best
when you look,
wrestlers.
that the thing is, I think if you're, especially if you're a Joshi fan now, and you're just not like a big Deanna shield, you're
Mhm.
just like, why are you still like here?
But I don't know,
Oh,
like, because I look at Devil Masami, right? Devil
mhm.
Masami wrestled way longer than she should have.
Yeah,
She probably should have retired by 01, 02. She kept going till a few years after that. I don't remember exactly. I think it was 08, but I might be wrong. Might have been 2010 for that matter. But I don't hold her last, 6, 8 years against her.
yeah, but
Because I
still,
still,
in
she was
some
still
cases,
legendary. I think it is a case by case thing because alternatively, I think Lioness Asuka um
had a pretty
was
bad
probably
return run.
she was probably generally, I mean, she was a better athlete, but she oftentimes was the better performer than Chigusa during their prime, while
Yeah,
Chigusa, eventually kind of
while when
evened it
they
up
had to like,
and got better,
yeah,
was
I
better
was
than her
gonna
and whatnot.
say, in the like next run, Chigusa was obviously
Yeah,
a lot better.
once they both came back, Chigusa was a bit more diverse and a bit more dynamic, and she could do more. Lioness
She,
Asuka was good at what she did. She could have a good brawl and a good, kind of like garbage
yeah,
fight, but she couldn't do too much more than that, right? So
yeah,
I think in that sense, it does vary case by case. But I don't think that is the issue with Kyoko Inoue. I think when looking at Manami Toyota and Kyoko Inoue, when looking at Kyoko, I think it's that so much of her run is Swiss cheesed, as in like you can watch a year of Kyoko Inoue. She could have two of your favorite matches from that year, but then she'll also probably have two of your least favorite matches from that
hmm
year in AJW.
uh,
You know what I mean?
I see what you mean.
I think
I see what
that's
you mean.
kind of like I mean, I remember watching her go to a half-hour draw with Mariko Yoshida. I was like, you didn't need to do that. That could have been a good match. It wasn't, but it could have been.
Yeah,
Kyoko can't do that. Like Kyoko can't go 30 minutes, and they kept having her go 30 and 60 minutes. And like stuff like that. And I think, and I also think, by the time of the Exodus, she was a bit more worn down than maybe she was even willing to admit.
yeah.
Because I think that of the people who left, Kyoko had one of the least like interesting
Post
impacts.
AJW runs,
Yeah, exactly, and that's impressive because
like
she was, like, the face of the Exodus, right? Um,
like
like, she
you
was a
know,
champion leaving.
yeah, and like I mean, Toyota had like a run like very late into, like very very for a long time after this, and I actually enjoyed like, I
Mhm.
Toyota's old woman run is very polarizing for a lot of people. I thought she was sick.
See, and that's the thing with Toyota, on the other hand, is I think Manami Toyota is even more interesting because when you look at it, her first legitimately great match was in 1990 against Bull Nakano.
Mhm,
Um, and then she had at least one great match, if not, like, several, every year
mhm.
for a long time. You know what I mean? Like, I mean,
Yeah,
you go to that Shinobu Kandori match in '97. That's one of my favorite matches of all time. Like, that's tremendous. And even if I'm not a big fan of her uh big singles matches as much as other people,
yeah, I'm
she
not.
every year she had a great tag match at
Yeah,
least once. You know what I mean? And I think that's the thing about Manami Toyota is that it's like I don't personally consider her like the best wrestler of all time,
yeah,
or the best women's wrestler of all time. But I also am beginning to understand it the more I watch of her
yeah,
because while I am lower on some of the Aja matches than most people are, I think that Aja and Manami Toyota aren't that great of a pairing generally. Like I think they have a couple good great matches, but like they are far from foolproof, and I think some people would disagree with that. Uh, I think that like Manami Toyota she's wrestled so much. You
yeah,
know what I mean? Like AJW had her working so much, and I think that just kind of like pushes her to have an easier goat case than other people. I think
yeah,
that's why you mentioned earlier the easy answer to who's the greatest women's wrestler of all time is Manami
yeah.
Toyota.
It's the popular
Um,
answer. It's just the
and I
easiest one to say, and like
And like I said, I'm beginning to understand why,
Yeah,
because it's like you really can just like pick a
and
year and
and
find a
this is like
great tag match or
and this is
find a great
growth
singles
for
match.
us specifically because we were just like, and I think Alex too. We were just like
Yeah.
any other time we heard that we're just like flat out no. But like now can kind of understand it. Like
It's
you can
it's
see
it's
it
be,
more and more. I don't
yeah.
agree necessarily.
Yeah.
However, I can like understand if somebody went, she's the greatest wrestler of all time, and you know you got to think about it. She's accomplished. She's had like great matches, and you're just like she just does cool shit. You know,
Mhm. And
especially
like you
for like a
said,
new generation of wrestling fans, just doing cool shit's enough. Okay.
and like you said, if you like her old lady run,
Mm-hmm. It was real.
like then she has like 15 years of good stuff. You
Yeah.
know, even like I said, even around 94 when I think she kind of jumped the shark in a way, she eventually got it back. But in 94 she kind of jumped the shark. You have this match.
Yeah.
Right? Like this was a great match. Like just like I feel like that's a
Yeah.
not that high of a take. This was a great match. So even if you don't love the Toyota Kong matches, right? Even if you don't like the Toyota Inoue singles matches from around this time, I think that might have
Mm-hmm.
been 95. But you know, I mean, like, there's still, she still has something.
Yeah.
And I think the longevity is kind of what pushes her in that conversation a lot more than I think people give it credit for. I think people will be like, oh, well, her three best matches are the best matches ever. I disagree. If you're looking at it like that, Shinobu Kandori is the best wrestler ever.
Yeah.
If you're looking at like the top three matches of anybody's career, it's probably Kandori. But for Toyota, I think that the longevity is actually like the thing that sets her apart from a lot of other wrestlers
Yeah.
that gives her a stronger case than others. I don't think it's like the individual performances
Yeah.
necessarily.
Um, she's just so lucky Akira Hokuto slowed down as she
Yeah.
was wrapping up her career. She's just so lucky. But I just love this open conversation we're having. So I'm gonna add to it. Why do you personally think that Aja Kong is not the popular answer for greatest wrestler of all time as in comparison to Toyota? Because the point I want to raise is she's got the same impact, maybe even more.
Hmm.
She has the story of having to fight through everything, including racism. And she was just like, all right, fuck it. I'm gonna just be hated. And she went from being one of the greatest heels of all time to being the most beloved wrestler, possibly. I don't want to jinx anything, but you know, possibly the most beloved
Up there.
wrestler now. Um, Still having great performances even now. So it's weird to me that she isn't the popular pick. And maybe it's just because she's not flashy like Toyota, so she doesn't appeal to like the newer generation.
I think it is just stylistically.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think the interesting thing about Aja is I think in a way she gets compared to Bull a lot, which is also an issue for her.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because they're very different
I was
wrestlers.
gonna say that, like
Like
when you said
vastly
that, that
different
like felt
wrestlers.
weird to me, just because it's
But
just
they
so different.
are like if the people who take Bull over Minami Toyota are the people who would go for Aja if Bull didn't exist. But
That's a good way to put it.
I think most, and I don't want to sound like condescending, but I think more like casual fans, people who are a bit more like, oh yeah, I enjoy retro Joshi, but not like to the nerddom that we do.
Yeah,
I think it's easier to just be like, oh, if you like the more powerhouse like heel style, you're gonna be like, oh, Bull Nakano was the best ever, which isn't even that unfair because she was tremendous.
yeah,
Um, but I think you would go there before you go to Aja.
which
And
is
then
weird.
if you're a bit more of a flashy wrestler enjoyer, you would go to Minami before you go to Aja. I think Aja just has people in front of her in a lot of these instances, which is not like I don't think it's fair because, like you
I
said,
don't either
she's
because
always been good.
yeah,
She's always
and
been good, and she's
longevity is case by case. But what do you do when you've been great for like over 30 years and still are?
yeah
So, like, what more do you need to prove to people to be like, hey, I'm the greatest ever in hindsight?
yeah no I agree. I think that like I think stylistically it's the
Yeah,
problem
I think
because
that's probably the biggest
I don't
issue.
think it's
Go ahead.
even like a you know match for match, like I said, that I think, I like I said, I think Manami Toyota is weaker than some people give her credit for, when it comes to like a
Hmm.
match for match basis. But she has strong longevity. I think that Aja has both, but I also think that like if a Aja match doesn't click for you, then it just doesn't click for you. And I think a Manami Toyota match is so flashy that you're going to have to give it something. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And I can understand a Aja Kong match not clicking for you. You know what I mean? Funnily enough, a lot of like I said, a lot of Aja Kong and Manami Toyota matches don't really click for me. Even though I like Aja a lot and I think Manami is pretty cool,
No,
they
no,
just don't click
that's
sometimes.
fine. That's the Masawa Stan Hansen thing, where it's just like ideally on paper these two should work together, but they just don't.
See, but that's the thing is that everybody like Aja Kong versus Manami Toyota is considered like the best AJW feud of the '90s, and I don't fully agree, but um, but yeah, I think Aja is an interesting additive into this conversation because I think I don't know, she had a great hardcore match with Dash last year or this year,
Yeah.
late last year. You know what I mean? Like that's the fact that that she did that
What
and then
got Mariah on everybody's radar was opposing Aja
oh yeah,
Kong.
her and her the lariat battle, yeah. Like Aja still does shit. She still has crazy movement in this scene and in this, in wrestling. And she can still have a great match. So I think that like that also aids in her case, but I think just stylistically, if Aja doesn't click for you, Manami Toyota is more likely to click for people than I think Aja is.
So, what
Some people
era?
just don't like monster heels, you know what I mean?
That's why they suck. They don't appreciate heel wrestling as an art form like I do. Um. So what? So what year of Manami Toyota is current Saya Kamatani?
That I don't know. Alex always talks about that, and I was like, I don't know. I don't think I,
I
don't-
was gonna.
I don't think I would give
I
heel
think I
current
saw
day
that.
Sai
I
Kamitani
think I
any
saw that in
Minami
the group
Toyota.
chat the other day, and I was like, "What the fuck is Alex talking
I
about?"
don't think I would. I don't think I would compare her at all. I think a year or two ago, I'd compare her to like one of the weaker years of Toyota, but still
Yeah.
like a fun one, like probably like a '94 or
Yeah.
'95 or maybe like '96, which is like later Toyota. That's like right before she kind of has the rejuvenation. Um, where she's kind of like, oh fuck, I need to carry this shit. Okay, I'm back. My bad. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Like that was a because yeah, Alex brought that up that Sai Kamitani and Minami Toyota comparisons. I was like, those don't work now that Sai's a heel. Saya can't lace homegirl's boots no more.
Uh,
That's my
I,
take.
I, I, I do want to tell everybody a funny story. You can say whatever you want. Add anything you want before we head
I'm
out or anything.
worried.
Whatever you want to do. Tell everybody a funny story. Is we were actually so me, Dylan, Scott, and Alex are in a group chat where we just talk shit and just hang out. And oddly enough, we were talking about reviewing this show today, and I think Scott was just like, "Is there any wrestler, Dylan, that you or any Joshi wrestler that Dylan hates as much as Alex hates Kyoko Inoue?" Because like Alex despises Kyoko Inoue. Like I don't enjoy this.
We're putting shade on their name. Like they don't hate. Like they hate
No, no,
some
no.
wrestlers.
But
They just
to be fair, Alex hates more wrestlers than Kyoko Inoue. Like
yeah.
I think he even said was just like that's not even like the biggest one. I just don't really enjoy her. And as he posed that question, it's like no. And Scott makes a separate group chat with me and Alex and goes, everybody just say, or we're talking about bad wrestlers or something. They defending bad wrestlers endlessly when talking about Alex, I think, or something.
Wait, that was
And
Scott's.
yeah,
Oh man,
Scott made a
that
separate group
fucker,
chat and goes, everybody say Hameka because we give Dylan so much shit
bad
because
friends,
he will defend Hameka to
bad
the end, and
friends.
um, and like we are us three are in the same boat as far as like we thought she was pretty inconsistent, but Dylan just won't accept that. He's won't, and that's fine.
She's a good tag
I'm
wrestler.
listen. I don't mind it. Hey, you do. Like I said, the 7-Up match pretty cool. So me and Alex come back in the group chat, and I just go some shit like, who's like pretty bad, Hameka. and the thing about Dylan is if you press Dylan enough, he just can't take the confrontation and just fucking blows up. And
Yeah.
me and
I was
Alex
getting
are
annoyed.
very good at pushing his buttons. So both of us doing it at the same time and coming at him is just incredible because Alex defends Nia Jax so hard. I don't watch Nia Jax. I don't remember. I remember not liking her. I don't know what she is now, but like Dylan just goes like, "You can't say that," and like Nia Jax. And at this point, I'm like dodging Nia Jax, and I'm just like talking shit about
Just
Hameka.
trying not to bring up the Nia Jax in the
Yeah,
room.
yeah, yeah. Because like we're thinking, and at this point, Dylan is getting more and more angry.
Well,
And
yeah,
at this
because
point, no, and at this point, I'm just saying random shit.
because
Like,
it, okay, because like I look at it like, okay, you guys can not like Hameka, but at what point do we look at it that Hameka is at
oh my
least as
god,
good
oh
as
my
Nia Jax?
god,
It
oh my
makes
god.
no
So
sense
I
to
know
me.
what I said. I know what I said because I'm just saying shit at this point because Alex is actually being logical because they're having an argument about Hameka and Nia Jax. I'm just saying shit to angry
I wish
Dylan,
that
and
wasn't
I'm
a
just like,
reality.
hey, like, how much, like, do you really lose anything in that 7-Up versus Mahime match if you replace Nia
Which was fucking
Jax with
Hameka's
Hameka?
which was Hameka's greatest performance of all time. Yeah, you do.
And then at this point, so like I forgot what he says, and then like Alex just goes, "Who's better all time, Charlotte Flair or Hameka?" And I was like, "Well, Hameka's pretty bad, and Charlotte Flair dates or is married to Andrade, and I think that's pretty fucking sick." So I think that's just so I'm just, and at this point, Dylan just fucking
Oh,
loses it
I
because,
was done.
like I said, if you confront Dylan, he does not like confrontation. He will
I'm
fight
not a
back,
fan.
but me and Alex are rare cases that we just overwhelm him too much because we've known him for so long, so we know where to go. So both of us going at him at once just like fucking made him explode, and he was just like, "I don't have time for y'all stupidity. I'm done talking with y'all for the day." And I was just like, I gotta tell that story tomorrow because we're talking about the double and no match. But I just wanted to tell
Yeah, because
everybody that
it
story
all
because
started with because the usual argument is me defending Kyoko Inoue and Kuro Ito because I was like they aren't that bad, dude. Like the fuck, and Alex just loves fucking fighting with me over it. Where it's like, yeah, they whatever. It doesn't matter. We don't got to spill everything from the group chat onto the No Limit Wrestling
no,
show.
I just wanted to tell
But
that story because that ties into the show.
these motherfuckers be pissing me off for fun. And I think if you're still listening, first of all, good for you. This was a mess of an episode this
Yeah.
past like half hour, but it was fun. Um, if you're still listening, I don't think I'm invalid for thinking Hameka's as good, if not better, than Nia Jax. I
No,
think
you're
that's
not
a
at all.
pretty
You're not at
fair
all.
take.
No, no,
And
no,
like
no.
that was when I was like, okay, no, you guys are just fucking killing my brain cells right now. No, I can't do this. But
It was
with
incredible.
all that being said, it is time to do the grades since we never
Yeah.
got around to grading the show.
Yeah. I just wanted to tell that story because we had the open conversation and all that. But yeah, we could wrap things up here. So first and foremost, what was your worst match of the night? What was your match of the night?
Oh yeah, first match of the night was definitely the mini match. It just man,
Mhm.
the guy with the sex on it, like he had sex written
Yeah,
on his
nah.
head,
I was like, Little
and he
Frankie
hit
was the guy though.
he hid under the ring for like half of the match, and Lil Frank was
Because
just hanging out in the ring.
because he got stripped and I don't know why.
Yeah, like you know what I mean, like legitimately, I'm not joking. Lil Frankie had some movement, but this just wasn't that. It just wasn't it. Best match, I would say the main event. I thought the main event was well, it didn't hit the 10 out of 10 like I like Dave told me it would. I did think it was a tremendous match
Can't just blame
that
Dave
I
for
was.
this. Come on.
No, I know, but I thought it was a great match that I definitely would recommend to anybody. Because I think it was a match that kind of like proved the stipulation, the 2 out of 3 falls. It was like one of those matches where it's like, this is why it works. You know what I mean? This is why constant stipulation for the 3WA belts works. And I thought that the use of time and everything was just super well done.
Uh, this is actually this might be the first time that we are on the same page. As
Mhm.
I think the worst match of the night was the minis match, and the match of the night was indeed the main event tag title match between Double and Noe and Golden Bear. So for our grades, I will go first. Uh, I gave it a B plus. I think the first half of the card really did some damage to my overall perspective on the show, even though there was some good stuff on the undercard. I think with a 9-match card, it is very hard for me to walk away and go, that was just A plus, great show, even if you have an all-timer main event. And that's really all my reasoning is. Because first I had it B, but I thought that was harsh just because of how good the main event was, how much I love Yoshida versus Hoda, how much I like the JWP tag title match. I felt like just the standard B was harsh, so I had to give him that extra plus. So that was my thinking.
Yeah, I think I am gonna. I am usually the harsh one as can be. Well, no, you were the harsh one there, but I think I am gonna go with a standard B, because I think it comes down to like the middle of the card. I thought that like the good stuff was very good, but I didn't think it was like great. I think that the sole like legitimately great like high end you need to see this was the main event. The Yoshida and Yumika Hoda neared it, like they were close to it. I thought that the JWP tag title match kind of fell below it, and then otherwise I thought the matches were just kind of good, solid to good. So I would give it a B, because it was a fun experience. Like I enjoyed watching the card. I didn't think that the 9 matches were that hard to get through by any means, but it was just like of the card, only one match really stood out as like a you know must see match, and I think that's frankly that's just how AJW was sometimes. Like that's why
Mhm.
there are so many matches that I recommended, but not necessarily so many shows that I recommended outside of a Dream Slam. So I think that was just kind of the case there.
Okay.
I'm cool to give it either for an overall because it's you know I
I
would say
think we can
B
do.
since you were closer to B than I was to B plus.
Yeah, we can go
Um,
B.
so I think B works for there. So yeah, it was pretty much you know not as good as Gaia because that was a fucking great show.
Yeah.
Or Kurihara's show, but yeah, I thought it was a fun time. I always love checking out 90s Joshi, and I just it's part of why I love having the show.
Give us
Just
the
kind of shooting shit.
JWP tapes. We're trying to see Dev Masami rock out, and
Yeah,
it's not a day.
yeah,
So if y'all
yeah.
got
I
that,
want to see some. I want to see some Devil Masami.
um, as far as next episode, we might or might not do the draft depending on. To spoil it, it's going to be a tag team draft, and we told Scott he has to pick somebody. I don't know if he has anybody.
I think we could do. I think we could do another regular one, then do a draft. Because I kind of like
Yeah,
the theme we've got going on, except for here and here. But like kind of like 2 regular episodes and
yeah,
then a special episode. Um,
yeah. That's fine. I can.
we also have like some more best of episodes kind of lined up. Uh,
Yeah.
I was talking to Widescreen. He kind of wants to do an Anai one. Uh, and I was like,
What?
hey,
That was
maybe.
me. What?
No, I know because I talked to him and I was like, yeah, we kind of want to do more best ofs like with Nanai and with uh Asakagetsu and he was like, oh, I'd love to do an Nanai one if I can come on, and so we might get him on
Yeah.
in a couple months at some point, but yeah, I kind of
The
want to
next
do
one,
another
have
one.
absolutely no idea.
Yeah,
Open for suggestions. Obviously, if you want to come on, you can always approach one of us. We will put you on. If not, me and Dylan will find something. But like I said, we would love some suggestions. Um, kind of got something from all the decades, unless we want to like watch something from the '80s. But once again, that'd be a tall task. Um,
yeah, that's
so
full cards wise, that's a bit difficult.
yeah, like I said, that's a tall task. So um, it's I don't necessarily know what we're gonna do for the next one, but yeah, we'll do a regular one and then we'll do an actual draft. So look forward to that, I guess. As far as stuff that I need to plug, nothing much. Just follow me on Twitter, Saviisms 3 eyes. Check out the Substack. Oh, I also just released an article on 60 Minute Draw titled Yasutaka Sarah, best junior heavyweight in the world, where I talk about Dictogo protege Yasutaka Sarah, who is a wrestler for Michinoku Pro and wrestles regularly in Osaka Pro Wrestling and is a serving member of the Hanazono Gundam. Um, and I just talk about why I think he's the best junior in the world, and y'all should just read that. One of the better things I've done. But that's all I got cooking up for now. Dylan, got anything?
No, check out Star Quest every week. We are on the 5 Star Network, which you are currently
Yeah.
listening to this on. So go check it out on the YouTube or on Spotify or wherever. Follow me at XX Ichiban on Twitter because I'm number 21 on the mic, but number 1 in your heart. And yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna write. I'm going to write soon about a show from '85, but I don't know how soon. Sorry.
That's the right answer.
Yeah.
Luckily, these shows are timestamped because I mean, honestly, if you just skip to the good matches and watch from here on out, solid episode. But yeah, that's all I got. So, do you want to do the outro?
Oh yeah, yeah, I got you. I got you. So, what we need you to do after an hour or after 2 hours of recording, like an hour of which were actually about the wrestling matches that we watched. If you enjoyed, I highly implore you, I beg you, I am on my knees pleading. You tell your mom, you tell your dad, tell your sister, you tell your brother, tell your aunt, tell your uncle, tell your cousin, tell your neighbor's best friend that lives over in Joliet, tell everybody that you fucking know the No Limit Wrestling Show is the best show in the biz. Bye bye.